Today, the 26th of March, is an important day since it marks 1 year of lockdown. The last year has been throughout different and challenging. The last year has been a litmus test for South Africa's democracy. Without further ado, I'm handing over to today's moderator, who I'm pretty sure most of you will know, Ferial Haffajee.
This week is a year since we went into a very hard lockdown, and our country felt so like Armageddon was about to happen, was about to befall us like the rest of the world. Ralph, over to you to present your paper to us. Lovely to be with you.
When the COVID-19 hit, I started wearing a different lens. I said to myself that I want to observe how management of the COVID-19, which has elevated executives to very, very high level, has given the executive what you can call an instant legitimacy. Where people were quite concerned, people were quite fearful. What happened? The virus came about. People did not see something of this nature, and a lot of citizens in many democracies deferred to the executive, quite more than we have ever seen in recent times. And the executive suddenly enjoyed that legitimacy. But at the backdrop of that was the crisis of legitimacy against which the executive actually entered into this crisis. One of the characteristics of the lockdown was the response through a centralized system where the National Command Council, of course, in consultation with other spheres of government, but you can see other spheres of government, your provinces and your local government, almost came up as having nothing to do, nothing more substantive to contribute to this.
What is the balance of rights and responsibilities between governments and citizens during the context of an emergency? There are legitimate situations where government is justified in taking on extraordinary powers, taking away the freedoms of citizens in ways that would not be justified during normal life. It's important that government, firstly, only uses its extraordinary powers to pursue policies that are directly related to the crisis at hand, right? So it's not acceptable for governments to use emergency powers to pursue policy goals that are unrelated to the emergency, even if those policies might be good things in their own terms. And I think that's an important point.
Official opposition and the other parties, did they rise to the occasion of the big issues of the role of Parliament and insisting even on its virtual convening early in the days?
Ferial, I don't think that political parties, they really, I don't think they stood to the moment. I don't think they played their role as it was required. I mean, earlier on, you had the EFF saying they're supporting hard lockdown and they were just supporting the president, almost like supporting a football team. Not very clear as to why.
The pandemic itself sort of frustrated the operation of the sort of checks and balances which are normally meant to guard against government abuses.
And as far as the DA is concerned as well, they also did not do so well, Ferial. I mean, they ended up just opposing things. You know, they ended up just picking some of the regulations and taking a hard position on some of the regulation. One thing about this lockdown is that it almost subverted subnational government to the national sphere of government. So sure, you could see them picking that they wanted to say more and so forth.
So has COVID-19 been kind to the president? Or will he not even see out a second term, as our colleague seems to ask?
The question as to whether will President Ramaphosa survive. I mean, Ferial, correct me here if I'm wrong. No one has ever lost their jobs in South Africa because of the way South Africa's lockdown has been managed. No one has lost their job because of the decision being questionable in relation to the management of the lockdown. I have a sense, Ferial, that we forgive easily as South Africans. We move on. And for me, looking at it, I have a feeling that it will take a great deal of work by the opposition to take the management of the lockdown into an election issue through which they can begin to try to punish the ANC.
Well, I think the president started off quite well in his response, but I think it's weakened, and that the the clear governance messes on the vaccine could count harshly against him. I'm interested in the notion that NGOs are a sign of a strong democracy in state. Are they not instead a sign of weak state capacity?
We look at, first of all, if we look at sort of strong established democracies in the world, one of the common factors seems to be that they do have strong civil society. And that's kind of it's almost universal to the point that that's one of the ways that political scientists kind of test how well consolidated a country's democracy is. Is the government confident enough to allow NGOs and to allow civil society actors to exist in that space without trying to take over all of the power, try to hold on to all of the power for itself. But then the converse is true. So I do think that the question, it hits on an important thing, which is when we see states kind of outsourcing key aspects of government, of government or governance to non-state actors, then that can definitely be a sign that the government is too weak to fulfill its core responsibilities.
Thank you very much, Moritz and the Konrad-Adenauer-Stiftung, for a great discussion. Thank you all for your lovely questions and for joining us today. I hope that you have lovely weekends.